Hello, my dear students. I hope you all are good. And remember, my blessings are always with you. Class, you must have heard that on Christmas, Santa comes to give gifts riding on his sleigh. But do you know which animal helps him to ride his sleigh? Correct. This one. This is reindeer. Alright, and where is this animal found? Okay, this animal is found in the Arctic region which lies in the northern frigid zone. The regions lying in the northern and southern frigid zones are also known as the polar regions. So today, to understand the life in the polar regions, we will study our chapter number 6, Polar Regions. So, a quick recap from chapter number 2, Heat Zones of the Earth. Did you all remember this diagram? According to heat zones, we divided our Earth into 3 regions or zones. First one, torrid zone. This zone gets direct rays from the sun and causing great heat. Second is temperate zone. In this zone, the sun's rays fall slanted on the ground, spreading over a large area, causing mild heat. And this third zone is related to our chapter number 6, frigid zone. Near the poles, the rays fall at a greater slant and spread out very wide and heating very little. Alright, now come to the chapter. The regions surrounding the two poles are called polar regions. They make up the two frigid zones of the Earth. The North Frigid Zone surrounds the North Pole and stretches up to the Arctic Circle. The northernmost parts of Asia, Europe, and North America lie in this zone. The South Frigid Zone surrounds the South Pole and stretches up to the Antarctic Circle. This zone is almost fully covered by the continent of Antarctica. Here we have a map of the polar regions and 3 colors are given: blue for water bodies, white for continents, and this purple for polar regions. Alright. Now climate of the polar regions. The polar regions are far from the equator and get very slanting rays of the sun. These rays spread over a large area and do not give much heat. So these regions are very cold all the time. Large parts of these regions are covered in snow and ice all the year round. These regions do not get much rain and the rain is usually in the form of snow. It means that the climate of the polar regions remain extremely cold throughout the year. Alright? The polar regions have very long days in summer and very long nights in winter. When the North Pole is tilted towards the sun and has summer, it has daylight for 6 months. In places close to the North Pole, the sun does not set for many days at a stretch and there is continuous daylight. During this time, the South Pole has winter. It is tilted away from the sun and has darkness for 6 months. Places close to the South Pole have darkness for many days at a stretch when the sun does not rise at all. Now, land of this region. In the polar regions, the land remains covered in snow and ice for most of the year. In the lowlands close to the Arctic and Antarctic circles, the snow covering the ground melts for a few months in summer. Streams, pools and marshes are formed then. Marshes are area of soft wetland, like area that is muddy because water cannot flow away from there. Alright. The highlands and the regions close to the poles remain frozen all through the year. The polar regions are cold deserts. In fact, Antarctica is the largest desert in the world. In chapter 4, we read about that Antarctica is a cold desert. Now, plants and animals in polar regions. Okay? In spite of the freezing cold, there are plants and animals in the polar regions. Seriously, class, imagine this polar region is so cold, yet plants and animals are found here. Hmm? When the snow melts in summer, a thin layer of soil appears in which short shrubs, grasses, and mosses grow. But the lower layers of the soil remains frozen, so trees and deep-rooted plants cannot grow. So mosses are very small plants that grows in large number on damp surface. Damp surface means like a little wet surface or moist surface. Okay. Most animals of the polar regions have a thick layer of fat under their skin to keep them warm, and many have thick fur. Some of them migrate or move seasonally to warmer places to escape the harsh winter and the shortage of food during this season. In the Arctic, the plants that grow in summer are eaten by animals like the reindeer, the musk ox, and the Arctic hare. Among the predators of the Arctic are the polar bear, the Arctic wolf, and the Arctic fox. Okay, the animals of the Antarctic region live near the ocean. They eat fish or other animals as very few plants grow there. Penguins are the most well known creatures of the Antarctic. These birds cannot fly. They swim and fish in the sea using their wings like paddles. The sea of the polar regions have different kinds of seals and whales. The North Polar seas have walruses as well. Class, remember one thing. Arctic Circle is in northern hemisphere and Antarctic Circle is in southern hemisphere. Okay. Now here is the information. The Arctic tern migrates the longest distance from the Arctic to the Antarctic. The Arctic tern is a bird. Okay. See, seriously, it is too far from north to south pole which it covers. Okay. Now, life of the people in polar region. Antarctica does not have any people of its own. Scientists from different countries go there to study the land, climate, plants, and animals of the region. They live in the research stations that have been built there. Alright, the Arctic, on the other hand, has been home to people for thousands of years. Among the people living there are the Inuit of North America and Greenland, the Sami, also called Lapps, of northern Europe, and the Nenets of northern Asia. The people of the Arctic get food mainly by hunting animals such as seals, whales, musk oxen, walruses, and polar bears. Fishing is also an important source of food. In summer, they gather berries and food plants. Some people keep herds of reindeer for milk, meat, and skin. There are farms where animals are raised for fur. Some work in mines and oil fields. Some people work in mines and oil fields. Alright. In the Arctic, people wear very warm clothes and hooded jackets to protect themselves from the cold. Clothes are made from the skin of animals like the seal and the reindeer. Nowadays, cloth and synthetic materials are also used for making clothes. The early people of the Arctic shifted home, often following the animals they hunted. Now, many people have settled down in the towns that have been built. It is difficult to build roads and railways here as the ground is covered with snow most of the time. People travel on sledges pulled by huskies, thick coated dogs, or by reindeer. These days, many people use the snowmobile on land and motorboats in water. Now, here is a para. Inuit people, earlier called Eskimos, lived mainly by hunting animals like reindeer and seals. These animals, gave the Inuit food. The skins were used to make blankets, clothes, tents, and boats, and the bones to make tools and weapons. Seal oil was used for cooking and in lamps. The early Inuit were nomads. Nomads are member of a tribe that move place to place. Okay. The early Inuit were nomads who moved with the animals they hunted. They lived in tents made of animal skin in summer and houses covered with sod in winter. Sod is basically the surface of the ground with the grass growing on it, like this. Okay? In winter, hunters made a shelter called an igloo with blocks of ice. For travel and transport, the Inuit used sledges pulled by huskies. For hunting or fishing in the sea, they used a single-seater sealskin boat called kayak or a larger open boat called umiak. Alright, now your chapter 6 is over. Please read the chapter and fill the bookwork in your book. I will send it to you in our next class. Bye. Take care.